Welcome to the Digital Week 2021. And Ines Kawgan, specialist for gender and mobility. We're going to speak to you now. Ines, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here today. And thanks for the participants to be here to listen to the topic of gender and mobility. We are going to use a presentation, which is posted on Menti as well. So we're going to have some sort of interaction because I want to get to know a bit about you as well. And Yu is going to put he just did put the link in the chat, so you can see that as well. And it works that I'm going to continue with the slides, and on some slides there are going to be some questions where you are allowed to answer, or if you don't want to, then don't. We're going to have the question and answers on those slides as well. So there will be 2 times where we have time for question and answers. And I think now I need your feedback. Do you need that that code as well, that password? Then we should put it there again. Maybe I'm just putting it in the chat now, so so you have it. Okay, so when you want to participate in the poll, then please go to the menti.com link there. If not, just relax, sit back and enjoy the show. And yeah, so hi again and welcome to this presentation. The topic is gender and mobility. And before it was the question, okay, what does that have to do with one another? And yeah, we're going to speak about that today. I'm from the AM Institute, and we create accessible and equitable mobility through consulting, training, and research. So we actually focus in our business on accessibility and equity and equality in mobility. And that is me. I am the managing director of the AM Institute. We just founded the company in November last year during a pandemic. That's the best time to to start a business, but yeah, we did it anyway. So I am, in addition, a PhD candidate at the Technical University Berlin. And next month, I'm going to have the defense of my dissertation. So finally, it's going to come to an end. And my dissertation is in the field of integrated transport planning. I am also a council member and a German ambassador of the Association for European Transport, which is the association behind the European Transport Conference. I think this year it's going to be the 49th conference, so it's a very established big conference on mobility and transport. In addition, I am a lecturer at different universities and do like presentations or have whole courses there, whole lectures. And I used to be a research associate and a consultant. And now I am managing director of the AM Institute. So, doesn't work. Okay, now it's time for you to let me know, what do you do professionally, or what do you study, in what field do you work with? You have the possibility to enter words there. I think it's limited to 3 words or 3 entries per person. And we will see the words flying in. So it's going to be one of the word clouds. And I'm curious to see what the results. Who is there? Who are you? Railway operations. I see someone is posting a teacher in the chat as well. Oh, now here we go. Nice. I see public health, mobility operations, HR manager. So, oh, that's a good mixture. Software, IT. Someone says PhD, corporate controller. Okay, are you? That's a very nice mixture of areas here. So nice. We have 14 entries. Okay, so there's a lot that relates to mobility, except for the teacher. I'm totally curious about the teacher thing. Okay, so I will continue with the next slide. And now I want to know, are you female, diverse, or male? If you don't want to say that, then it's fine. You don't have to. I'm asking this specifically because there are usually more women in my sessions than men, because women are more interested in the topic. And as I can see here, we have more women than men. Last time it was actually equal, so that's really interesting. Okay, and we have a female and a male in the chat as well. Okay, cool. So, and now I want to know, what do you think? Is there a gender difference in mobility and transport? I mean, it's kind of a question when we hear in a seminar about gender differences. So I totally expect someone to say no, exactly, there is this person. Great. Okay, so we have 12 answers, 13, and 1 in the chat. So that's cool. And Volker says yes as well. So, and now I want to, do you think gender has an impact on our mobility? That's the same question as before, actually, but on a different slide. That's weird, but answer it anyway. Because this was supposed to be like a word cloud thing where you say what types of issues are there. Okay, so yes, it does. Nice. Okay, but we have people who don't know that. Okay, so this was the slide that you're supposed to see. Okay, anyway, we have this, we see that a lot of you say that gender has an impact on mobility and transport. So we know that actually, and it's nothing new because there used to be in the 90s a huge wave of knowledge about this topic. But somehow it just like didn't continue, and all the research that we know is just for some experts or some researchers, but it didn't arrive in practice. And what we know is that women and men, when you think about the two labels that we use here, we know that women have more complex trip chains. That means that they connect their trips to various networks around their home. So what happens is that they have shorter trips, but more during the day on average than men. And you see this picture here, it's a visualization to just like demonstrate that trip chaining. And the fun part is that I once had a study where I had a mother of 3 children. She was working as well. And her Monday afternoon killed it all. It was just even more complex than that because she had to go to 3 different institutions, including music school. She had a business contact for lunch. She brought the one boy to homework session. It was just insane what she did on that afternoon. And for men, typically we see that in the statistics, they have less trips on average during the day, but they travel longer distances, which is usually because they're work-related trips that they do more often, and they are longer on average. We know as well that women use public transport more often than men. And we know that women are passengers in private cars more often than men. We know as well that there are different trip purposes due to different daily tasks that women and men have. I know that everyone knows some parents who have both parental leave or something, but we are still far from having an equal task load when it comes to childcare and household responsibilities. So this is something that shapes our daily mobility. We know as well that there are different perceptions and experiences of different modes of transport. And that just like starts even in childhood when you see more boys going by bikes by themselves to school. And we have studies where we see that schoolgirls are more often driven to school by their parents due to safety reasons, for instance. We know as well from my very own research that women are more environmentally aware, and they're even willing to spend more money on green mobility, which I find is a huge potential that we need to tackle, that we need to address somehow. And it's kind of contradicting the fact that there are so many more men using all these innovative offers, like buying electric vehicles or using micromobility services. Just having, or when you look at the car sharing numbers, there are studies from all over the world where it says that like 80% are men using it. And this is like something that, in my opinion, it contradicts, because women are supposedly more aware of environmental issues, but on the other hand, they use those innovative offers and services not as often. So, and I find that very interesting. And this is exactly where we're at my dissertation about. We know that those different parts here, safety, security, affordability, availability, reliability, and accessibility, in all these areas, we find gender differences, and we need to include them in our service design and our product designs, in policies, in decisions. And we need to actually consider that those facts are really there in order to overcome the differences between men and women, which is one of the things where I always get the first question, oh, are there actually differences, or is it only because women take more care of children? So yes, women take more care of children, or more often, but this would only be an issue when it comes to trip chaining. But there are so many more things, and we even see differences that occur before someone starts a family or after. So there is so much more behind that. And now I just okay, so sorry, I clicked something funny there and I'm not sure what will happen. Okay, so I'm going to speak now a bit mobility and innovation, because this is something where we see a huge difference. And I always start this presentation with, is it a masculine topic? And the idea is that this phenomena I mentioned earlier is the basis for my research, for my PhD research. And my question was, okay, what motivates urban women to use free-floating car sharing with electric vehicles? So the ones that are just like located in a business area and you don't have to return it to a specific place. And I was specifically interested in electric vehicles because there is a gender e-gap visible when it comes to commercial car sharing as well. And I wanted to figure out why that is, because I thought, okay, women are more concerned about the environment, they're more pragmatic, they're not emotionally as attached to cars and things like that. So why is that? Where does it come from? And I did first a literature review, of course, to find tons of things that I use. I mean, it just gender, just the term gender itself is a huge topic where you can spend your whole PhD by itself to talk about what's going on and how to define it and what aspect to use. And I wanted to figure out what are the characteristics of female early adopters in my first empirical study, and compare them to the male early adopters, just to see whether there are differences or are they similar, and yeah, just to know who are the women who use it yet, because we know a lot about the men who use it. In the second part, I wanted to have a look at the attitudes and preferences from urban dwellers. So I had a look at access to resources, attitudes, and mode choice. And This paper was published last year. It's called "Are Women Greener Than Men?" And this is where I found out that yes, women are more green than men when it comes to mobility. And from that, I went to the third empirical study where I had 5 use cases of women. We GPS tracked them for a week, did interviews, travel diaries, and talked about what their perception is, with a specific focus on free-floating e-car sharing. And all of that stuff combined, I just put together. I identified obstacles, especially social constructs, because gender is a social construct. And I identified things that are more, that create an obstacle for women to adopt those services. And from there on, I continued to have specific issues, goals, objectives, and created measures. And that's my dissertation about this topic. So, okay, we have seen that there is this issue with more men using those services. And from my research, I found out that, or what you can see as well, when we think about innovation, we always think about those shiny tech aspects. We want to know about what can algorithms spit out at the end, or what data we can use. So it's all very, very techy. It's very, let's say, detail oriented. And those topics that I listed here, they are with a very masculine connotation. And in those fields, there are usually more men than women working. And when we think about what should be included as well, this is what I came up with. Okay, we have mobility and urban planning, because mobility is not transport. Transport is the actual movement of something, and mobility is the perception and the options of an individual to move in space. And we, of course, want people to change their behavior. We want to plan for people. We want to create services and products for people. So participation is a huge process, and we need to think about society and the structures. So we have sociology and psychology, and we have politics, of course, and public administration, because those are the ones who are at the end responsible when it comes to municipalities. And of course, public health and the whole climate topic, those are things as well. And in this area, except for politics itself, we know that there's a higher share of women in there than when compared to the things like entrepreneurship or tech companies, things like that. So we currently have a very masculine focus on innovation. And this is even to the point, I like this example, because the ITF, the International Transport Forum, said that gender is a very, very crucial determinant of mode choice. It's even, or more often, more robust than income and age. But when it comes to transport innovation, you can see gender equality on the low right corner of the bubble thingy there, the picture. And I was thinking, okay, yeah. So on the one hand, they acknowledge that it's a very crucial variable, but on the other hand, it's just like the least important aspect in transport innovation, at least on this picture. And then I had a look at this is one of the pictures that they had from one of the conferences, and I sat down and I counted the numbers, and I think it was 17% women on this picture. And this is basically how it is represented as well. We have the other associations. There are just that many women. It's in a lot of associations the same share. We have across Europe, we have 22% females working in the field of transportation. So this is something, yes, that is how it is. Doesn't mean that we shouldn't consider the perspectives. And When we only have that perspective, then we're not going to reach everyone. And why is this a problem when it's a male-dominated mobility innovation field or general mobility and transport field? There is this thing called I methodology, which I like to point out a lot because it means that you just see from your perspective. When it comes to startups, when it comes to designing products, most of the time you just have an idea that results from your own personal needs. When you look at the startups, there are a lot of men doing some nice construction work on bicycles or other things, which is cool. And they are funded a lot because they focus on technology, engineering, and all those things. So that's the cool stuff. But they satisfy their own needs and eliminate a male-centered problem. And in the field of mobility, we have a share of 3% women as CEOs, which is, when you think, yeah, that's like a really low number. And I'm not sure specifically for startups, but that just be aware, have a look at when you see those companies who is in the CEO position. So what do? They build something, they create something, they have customers, and then they think, okay, how can we make it better for them? And at the end, when their product is all shiny and ready, they wonder, okay, how can we get women now to use the offers and other people as well? Because most of the time, those services, they attract a specific kind of group of people, the so-called early adopters, which is well-educated, living in urban areas, male, and yeah, so this is something, it's a very homogeneous group of people that use those services, and you could avoid that when you do start considering gender aspects in your work. So now I want to know from you, do you actually do something that considers gender aspects in your work? One is planning to, yay. Okay. I have 5 answers, 6. Nice. Okay, one from work, one from the chat. Okay, that is nice. And okay, now, you didn't see that coming. The next slide. Oh, no, my slide is gone. Where is it? Oh no, I was going to ask you what you do. What actually is it that you're doing? And now I don't see where this is coming. So I will have to have this in the question and answer, which will be soon after this. So I wanted to know from you, what do you actually do with that information? What is there? And there are 2 ways, or 2 basic approaches how to get gender sensitive perspective on the topic. First is have diverse teams, of course. You need to empower women to get more into the field, who are that includes changing the culture of the work, that includes making the topic more interesting for women, as well as empowering women to go into a field where they usually don't feel as safe because there are more men than women, and this feeling can have a huge impact on something on your perception of your workspace, and of course equal career opportunities, all those things. And on the other hand, you can actually consider this category and these aspects when you design your products and services. Don't only focus on the technology and then think of, okay, I build it and they will come, they will use it. Include it from the beginning. Pay attention that you have gender balanced user research, for instance, that you have a sensitive way of asking questions, that you don't only have men asking because those are your current customers, but if you want to change the way people move, if you want to change and have a sustainable mobility, we need to address it to all and not only the tacky people who like mobility toys. And we need to include this topic more into the learning programs, the study programs, because in most of the things, gender is hardly talked about in the studies. And I don't know, but this is something where you can tell me afterwards in what study programs or courses gender is actually taught, because I'm still looking for some of that. Okay, so now it is time for the first round of questions. And in addition to your questions, I would like you to tell me what is it that you do at work when you consider gender? Because I think there were 8 people saying that they do work with this. And I'm all curious about what's going on there. No questions.
Sadly, I don't see any on the F&A, but perhaps our audience was not aware of it. That, like, people, if you want to ask questions like now, open questions, please go to the F&A area in Zoom and type it out. And I'm going to ask them right away here to Ines. So let's see what appears as new questions here. All right.
Yeah. Okay, and for the ones who are not using the Menti presentation, you can put that in the chat as well. So,
because we have sort of quite a lot of people that were not in the Menti, when I see the numbers there. So let's see if there are the questions here.
Yeah, we have one question. Okay, someone is planning to include the gender factor in his or her study. So how do you do that? Okay, consideration into car restriction policies. That's a big question. The first thing is, I think the first step is acknowledge that there are differences, because a lot of people don't want to hear about that, because it shows just that in our society there are just stereotypical expectations and so on. So the question is car restriction policies, what that means. But hey, feel free to contact me afterwards and we can talk about that a bit more in detail, because I'm not quite sure in which direction the question goes now. So
okay. But why we have no questions from the audience? Perhaps they're writing still. Oh, we have a second one.
Yeah, we have one. I thought, I believe that is a lot to do. Yes, yeah, definitely. So the idea is that we are we used to have this perspective on mobility coming from the engineering side, from the technology, and this is something that is more something that men and boys are more interested in. And I'm not saying that this is something that is in their genes. This is something that we, or the whole society, teaches our children. It starts with boys are playing with cars. They are supposed to go outside in a different way, while they are supposed to just run around, ride their bicycles, and girls are supposed to, I'm overdoing it now, yeah, so they are taught to have more social games where they have some sort of interaction with others. So we already see that in the education that is starting right from the beginning, and this is nothing that is there that the parents can do. This is something that is really in the whole society. So this is a topic that the whole society needs to address. Okay, so we have more questions. Yes, that's a good thing because this is basically as well that we or that I found in my research that it's not a contradiction. This is I said that before because that was my initial thought on that. And there is so much more behind that. And the problem is when we talk about sustainable mobility and with climate change, it just means that most of the time the discussion is focusing on BEVs or autonomous vehicles or car sharing and things like that. But they are just always presented and not as attractive to women for various reasons. I could speak for hours about this topic by itself. So this is something, yes, totally right. And yeah, we need to shift away from cars. Good. What are some of the perception differences between gender concerning mobility? Cars you found. Perception differences. When it comes to cars, we know that women are not, okay, one perception difference in cars is that women do not see cars as emotionally, or how do you say that, as much combined with emotions, a more pragmatic way. And I know this, there's this one study which labels the car as a management tool for mothers, for instance, because it helps them to get all the tasks that they have, the daily tasks done. So this is one of the differences. We know that when we talk about communication, we have differences as well. So men tend to be more interested in technical details and things like that. So advertisements, car advertisements, you see that they are very much focusing on those things. But for women, it's different. I'm speaking about statistical differences, that they're more into the whole product, the picture of the company. How does that fit the whole picture? So this is something where you have a difference when it comes to cars. And yeah, would like to talk to you afterwards as well if you're doing a PhD in this field. So that would be cool. Okay, there's a fifth question, but I'm not sure which one. Do you look at transport choices before? The question means that before they started using it for the first time, I assume. So I had a look at a sample of users, of female users, who didn't have a car, or most of them didn't have an own car, so they used car sharing. And yeah, I didn't have the question in the questionnaire whether they gave up their own cars because of the services. So this is something, there are many studies on that topic. The issue with that is that they're not very gender sensitive. They have questions, which is, we can speak about the data sets, because I have some more slides about the gender data mobility gap. And there you can see why there is so much missing on information. Okay. So, okay, I would like to continue with the presentation, and this slide will be at the end again. So we're going to have some more questions then. Okay. So, there's the question. How did you consider gender aspects in your work? Never mind, we're going to ignore that. We're going just to go to the gender mobility data gap. That's awesome. Okay, and I want to tell you, why is it so important to have gender sensitive data? I mean, we saw already that there are differences, and there are there are so many other fields or aspects of mobility. And we find them and we need to consider them. So we have a problem with our data on mobility, which is basically, it's historically grown. And it is a male-dominated field with the same perception again. And sometimes we have a huge problem with representativeness. And we have the other issue, which is that if we consider gender factors, that we usually have this man versus woman analysis in the part. And the problem with the data that we have is, you probably heard that garbage in, garbage out phrase. So we don't know much about specific things of women. If we use averages, we have a lot of loss of information. And when you just continue with working on findings from bad data, you cannot actually transfer it to other than men if you have male-dominated samples. And we have this planning by men for men, in German Männerplan für Männer, saying where it's for instance, like the public transport is planned by men because they work more men than women, much more men, and because they don't consider the perspectives of others as they should, they build it for men. And when we when we build measures, when we create them, when we think about that, then we just like have a problem, because those measures do not address the actual needs of women as well. So they're just basically not going to be effective because they're not addressed towards them and they're not working there. So the problem with the whole thing is that we recreate gender stereotypes when we just focus on the male users, when we only focus on male-dominated fields of mobility. And at the end, mobility is something that is a very, very important part for social inclusion. We are able to participate in a social life through mobility. And if the worst outcome is that you just exclude a huge part of the society when you restrict their mobility. And this is, I mean, here in urban areas, it's not as such a big factor, but when you think about less developed countries, this is a big impact. Okay, so this is like all nice, right? So I have two examples here why we have an issue with the data. This is from the questionnaire from the German Mobilität in Deutschland, which is the largest sample that is used for a lot of information for a lot of decision makers. And there's this question, okay, why did you do this trip? So you're supposed to answer, where did you go that day? How long did you travel? And so on, what mode did you use? And your trip purpose, right? So when you consider that you're only allowed to choose one of those answers. And when I think, okay, I go home from daycare, picking up my child. On the way, I think, okay, yeah, let's stay a bit outside. I meet another parent with a child. We just speak, we spend some time, walk slowly towards the grocery store to get the child an ice cream or something. And I'm thinking now, okay, what would this be? Would I be grocery shopping? Is it like a picking up people from home? Is it leisure activity? So what is it? For me, it's like really hard to answer that because it can only be one, which is not the reality of a lot of women that do multiple purposes for one trip. When you go grocery shopping with your child, is that so what is that? Or if you buy something for yourself or for someone else? And the fun part is that you are supposed to even go much deeper into that and say that, okay, what sort of grocery shopping, or what did you buy? So you're supposed to say, okay, I'm talking or I bought something for my daily use, or was it something special? And this is like something you're only allowed to choose one of them, and this is just not the reality. And I cannot even imagine how men would answer that. But when I think about my personal mobility, this is something that I just like really don't understand. And this is one example why there's so much information missing in the data sets. And another one is the representativeness of men and women in samples. So when we talk about all this new shiny stuff, EVs, AVs, mobility as a service, those surveys attract more men. And when you have a look at some research, please check what the ratio of men and women and others is in the sample, because when you have a sample that consists of 96% men, and you just like draw conclusions and create measures from that, then you will just recreate what those men wanted for their daily mobility, and you are not going to have other things, which is fine. I mean, when you have a look at users and you do user research, it's totally cool. If only men use it, that's fine. The problem starts when it's like it somehow in the middle it gets lost, and people think, okay, those measures or those recommendations at the end, they're cool, so we're going to apply them and think this will be applicable for the whole society. And this is where the issue starts. So this is something that I find very, very interesting. And for the like the car sharing, electric vehicles, it's usually way more male dominated. And yeah. Okay, so how do we get better data, right? So it's always nice to say, okay, you should do this, you shouldn't do that. The thing is, from the whole process of data collection, data preparation, and analysis, you can have a look whether you are gender sensitive. You shouldn't be gender neutral, because we have differences. We have differences in communication. We have differences in the meaning of words, even like those differences are real, and we need to address them somehow. I mean, it's not cool to have different things, but they are basically there as well. So we need to include them in our research and do something against them. So one aspect is the question and your answers. Make sure that they are applicable for all users that you want to reach, for all respondents that you want to reach. We know that women, when it comes to representative samples, I have that in my own data, that so many more women do not answer questions regarding specific topics, and then you just have within the question you have a different share of men and women, although your whole sample might be representative for your area, for your location or country or whatever. But this question, if you don't say that 80% of men answered that question, and you use an average from that, then there is something wrong with your question, because it's not gender sensitive. Of course, the sample, big topic. Make sure that you have balanced samples, not only men and women, but age, income, education, depending on what is the question that you want to have from the outcome at the end. Another interesting aspect is the so-called heteronormativity. which is a fact that we tend to label men versus women in societies. And here in this slide, you can see there is called Geschlecht, which is the German word for sex, the biological sex. And then it asks, are you male or female? And the problem is they exclude every other form with this question. And of course, you cannot say what you are. You don't have to answer this question, but sometimes you do have to answer this question in questionnaires, and you just like don't acknowledge that there are other things, and you recreate this label of man and women, masculine, feminine. And so make sure that when you collect data, you are able to have a look at the aspect of gender that is important, because there are several aspects. And many people just collect that because they think it's part of the socio-demographic battery that you have to have. And others, especially like the service providers now, they say, oh, we don't need that data. But when you have 80% men using your services, you do need that information. Okay. So different thing, data preparation and analysis. I found in so many samples when you have all the other things, even if you have that done, sometimes they just don't even look at differences of the different gender, or they just go on a different level, on a household level, for instance. But specifically in households, there is a huge difference between, for instance, a single mother and a single father in their mobility or in every other aspect of their life. So this is something that is really, really important, that you consider gender as a cross-sectional item for many of the analysis, and not just ignore it because, yeah, we don't want to see that there are differences. Okay, so if you are interested, get in contact with me. We offer consulting on how to ask in a better way, in a gender-sensitive way, how to conduct research. We support and consult on services that are created, or if you have another round of improvement or something, we do that, and we offer trainings when it comes to that. And here's a QR code for a gender and mobility course that is going to start in May, and it's going to be in English. Okay, and so we have now more time for the question and answers. And I think I should mark them as answered, right? So that will help a lot. Okay, I don't think, yeah, we had that. We had that. We have this. Yeah, so this question, I can tell you, I didn't have a look at it. It's totally interesting. I can tell you that personally, I gave up my car because I'm by now using car sharing. I live in Berlin. I mean, we have a great public transport. I use all those e-scooter sharing services as well. And I actually gave up my car because I think it's at a point in time where I don't need it. And I have 4 children, and typically we know that as soon as you have children, even in cities, you think that, okay, you have to have a car. So this is something that is from my personal experience. But yeah, that's really interesting to have a look who gives up the cars when they use car sharing and not. Security, yeah. So the security topic is a very, very interesting topic, especially in countries where there is like a bigger difference or a bigger gender gap in general, because the bigger the gender gap is, the more the more security issues are there for women. And in a lot of studies from less developed countries, we found that security is a big issue. And we see that in Germany as well, and in European and Western societies, that security is a bigger issue. For instance, more than 30% of women do not feel safe at public stations. That was a study from Vienna. And they are very, very far with gender urban planning. So this is something that's really, really interesting. I'm not such a big fan on limiting gender issues on security issues. I know it's a very, very important topic. My problem is always that we think that women are a vulnerable user group. And this is where I think, oh no, we are not a vulnerable user group, because just because we are not the male standard that is set. And I had this this one meeting once where someone came up with an idea. Yeah, let's have facial recognition in public stations to somehow have that. They wanted to have a project on that with the topics, because facial recognition, AI, and so on, that's cool stuff, right? So how can we use that to improve the security of women in public stations? And I was thinking, no, we should tell men not to hurt women instead of trying to separate that, because that will just shift the whole security issue to an area where there are no cameras. So this is something where I think we need to make sure that we do not only focus on women as victims, but address the issue. Where does it come from? And in addition, look at the positive things of being female as well, because there are many. I mean, this is something that is most of the studies, it's not addressed, because it's always it has a connotation that women are like vulnerable users, same as disabled people or something. And I think, oh, come on, this cannot be it. So yeah, security is a big issue, and we need to address that. So something.
Yes, thank you very much. Our time is closing up. I find it quite a good thing that people spoke about security now, because that's our topic for tomorrow, actually. And yeah, it's more on the technological side of it, but anyway. And for those who are still fascinated by this mobility topic, we are also having in fact, we have 2 more sessions that are just about what we had here in detail. One goes for the aspect of mobility on Friday, and the other with Gudrun Sander, which is going to be about the gender issue relating to recruiting and careers, and how technology is helping there or not. So this is also something that's we are looking forward to. I wish to thank you, Ines, very much for this. And I see 2 more questions. Come on, let's see the 2 questions before it's over. One question is very practical. How one person here says that when she starts, or he with their work, that their surveys mostly only men come to answer. How can you handle that you make more women answer on your survey about mobility?
Yeah, when you have your call for respondents, don't put an emphasis on the technical aspects. We had surveys where we had just the logo of the logo of the public administration in addition. So they were the one who sent the calls for participation. And the share all of a sudden was completely different, because it had a different connotation. The whole call was just different. Don't place shiny tech pictures and cars on your calls, because then you of course only get those people. So this is something that is just communication. Yeah.
Thank you very much. There's one last question, but it's a broad, not the gender mobility one. Sorry there. It's more for tomorrow, perhaps even for the day after. How can we use data security to improve the way women live in poor countries? Well, could be a webinar by itself, such a question. And sorry, but now our time is really up. But like I said, tomorrow I'm going to show you just a teaser now from what are the topics that we're going to speak about the coming days. Let me just stop your presentation now. Okay, so, and then we can finish this. There we go. Tomorrow, no, exactly. Tomorrow, so tomorrow we are having leadership. This is a funny one. We are having people that had big fails. Swiss companies that, like one Swiss company that had to go bankrupt because they had a major security problem. And we are looking about how to handle that from a leadership role, from the role of the one responsible for this. In the afternoon, we have something like a bit more tech related. It has to do with the camera stuff that Ines brought about. Like now we have this Internet of Things, right? Everywhere something getting our data. And sometimes this can be used for our good, for our bad. How do we handle that? What are the current problems with this? On the Wednesday, we sadly have one session less because the teacher got sick, but it would be an awesome session about creativity and AI. But we do have the session in the morning, this one, which is about AI helping us access our projects. Because in theory, you could use technology to say if a project has a good chance to work or not. And as some of you may already know from AI is all about collecting enough information so that the machine can better predict the future. So could the machine help us predict if a project will be successful or not? That's the topic there. On the 15th, we have what I said, Gudrun Sander bringing the virtual career advisor and recruiting and technology and the gender question as well, and diversity and inclusion. In the afternoon, we also have an interesting topic that ties together again many of the topics that we had before. This one ties both from the ones before, because here Chantal Brandt and her guests will be looking at how can you use AI to improve how your team work, especially if your team is, for example, diverse or mixed or new. So you have both the aspects of the 14th and the 15th in the morning, taking a look in from another perspective in the afternoon. And our last questions, like I said, on the morning, mobility again, and in the afternoon, we go in a completely different direction. We go in the future of health and how digitalization is changing it there. I want to point it out that most of these sessions are from women working with technology and working with exactly this kind of stuff that, as Ines told us, many times women get just excluded from because reasons, right? I would say no, and that's why I really consciously call for women in tech to come and show up here in the Digital Week and show what they can, because they can a lot. They can certainly as much as men or more and whatever, like we are all people, right? And we have to do it. We have to have the doors for everybody. Thank you very much, Ines. Do you have any final words before I close the session?
No. Just thank you for being here, for having me, and I hope that people will come to all the other sessions that you just mentioned and learn so much about that. So
thank you very much, Ines. Great. So people, I'm gonna close the session now, and that's it. Bye-bye.